Professor Berkin, I'd like to start by asking you about a particular category of women, widows. We know that most men and women married more than once if they were lucky enough to survive into what we would now call middle age. We know that women who were married or young were dependent on fathers and husbands. Mm-hmm. But what about widowed women? Did they want to remarry? Did they?
It depends on, again, when. In the South, of course, in the whole 17th century, they had the demographic disaster, which the life expectancy of a man was 41 and of a woman was 39. And so they really had serial marriages. In fact, there's been a study done that said that after 7 marriages, the children in the family were not the biological children of either of the parents in the family. So I always call it the Elizabeth Taylor syndrome. So they are there. You remarry because you have young children to take care of. But by the 18th century, mortality rates have really pretty much evened out, and maybe you'll marry, a man will expect to marry twice in both the South and the North. The problem is a lot of women did not want to get married again. They lived long enough for their children to grow up, and they were not interested, especially if their husband had been generous enough to actually leave them property outright instead of just for their use until the sons were old enough to inherit. Women were allowed to keep some of their personal possessions if under normal circumstances, but the land, the property, or the shop, they were just taking it. But on occasion, women would be left property. Maybe there were no children, maybe the husband really wanted to leave his wife some independence from a grasping son who couldn't wait to take over. Those women really not so eager to get married. You have men who go courting, you know, I'm alive, marry me, and you have women saying, not so interested in doing that. If you were single, and you had an occupation in the cities, if you were a female artisan, which usually meant being a milliner or making clothing or something where you could earn a living, and you did not want to give up your economic independence, because if you got married, all of a sudden all of that belonged to your husband. You were no longer femme sole, you were woman covered, and that meant everything you earned and everything you owned belonged to him. There were a lot of women who said, nope, not very interested in that. So you can see that women realize that their legal and economic dependence, that things hinged on that it didn't hinge on whether you could be a town surveyor or whether you could vote in an election, that it hinged on whether what you earned belonged to you. And you see these single women and these widowed women, and there have been some theories that the witch hunts in Massachusetts were really about this rage at economically independent women who owned land, owned property, and therefore had power in the community, even though they couldn't vote, they couldn't hold office.